This lesson is on how to grow your business through digital marketing. So we're going to cover a lot of ground in this presentation. But what it really all is going to come down to fundamentally is this trust building process that we use here at Cultivate to help you develop a trust building process that you can use to develop and win customers. So that's what this is going to be all about. Ultimately, our goal is to help you win new customers. So I'm going to walk us through the trust building process with customers. I want to begin by using a simple illustration. This is an example of Olivia. So this is Olivia's trust building story. And as I hope we'll see eventually, this process for a simple stand at a farmer's market, the process that customers move through to develop trust and buy this product is going to really be applicable to almost any business that you and I would have. So this is Olivia's trust building process. So Olivia sets up on a Saturday morning at the local farmer's market here in Central Ohio to sell amazing bread. Sells amazing bread. So what happens is the stand is set up, the samples are put out, and customers start walking by. We call this her service obtainable market. This is the visible audience that's going to come through the farmer's market in the morning. And the first step is simply a good morning. So we say good morning, and what happens is the customers sees, they engage Olivia, they turn their head. So that's the first step. This is a service obtainable market. And in a way, you could imagine this as like the ad for the business. There's lots of ways that we do this. In this case, at the farmer's market, we're simply saying good morning, but in a Facebook ad or a Google ad or a print ad, we would have some other kind of way to get people to turn their head, engage, and look and explore this process, explore more. So the next step is to engage. So we say, come on up, try as many samples as you like. So this is like a call to action. So this is the first step. This is like them clicking and coming to the landing page of our website. When this happens, they step up, they begin to try some samples, and they're engaged, but they're still an unqualified lead. We don't know at this point if they have money to buy bread. Are they actually interested in buying bread? They just being polite. Maybe they're interested in trying some samples. We don't know. They're an unqualified lead. But once they step up to the table, this is where we can begin a discovery process. So Olivia will ask them some questions to better understand what their needs are. What kind of meal are you trying to have this bread with? Maybe they're interested in a particular flavor of bread, and Olivia will explain why she likes that loaf of bread. So there's lots of different ways to start this conversation to really understand what it is they're looking for. There might be things that you can do to build a rapport with that customer. Maybe they've brought their dog to the farmer's market, and as a pet lover yourself, you begin to relay and kind of build on that. So what happens is people step up to the table, they begin to get their questions answered. You begin this trust building process. A crowd begins to gather because they see all the attention around this product. And eventually they're qualified. You realize that they do have the ability and the interest in buying this bread. And then at some point, hopefully the customer trusts Olivia, they trust the brand, they trust the product, and they purchase the bread. The customer is won. The trust has been earned. So Olivia, on a Saturday morning, will potentially sell 94 loaves of bread in 3 hours. So Olivia's just killing it on the bread sales. But this process that Olivia uses to move customers through this trust building process at the farmer's market is really, as we'll see, the same process that we use every day in developing and nurturing customers for just about any kind of business that we have. The next thing we need to understand about trust is really about building relational equity. So relational equity is this idea that every time you do something with a customer that exceeds their expectation, and really in any relationship we have, when we do something that exceeds their expectation, we create a trust deposit. It's like we're adding money to this bank account that we have, this trust account that we have with this person. So we exceed their expectations, we're creating a relational deposit. We're making this trust deposit. Whenever we fail and we don't meet the expectations that we have with this relationship, we make a trust withdrawal. And the hope is that we, over time, build up enough of these trust deposits that even though we slip and make a few mistakes here or there in the relationship, those mistakes are not so drastic that it wipes out all of the relational equity that we've established. If the amount of trust deposits that we make in a relationship are greater than the trust withdrawals, then when we do make a mistake and we do fall short of expectations, we have enough relational equity that we essentially have accident forgiveness. So this is why when we have a loved one in our life and we do something that is irritating to them, they don't immediately kick us to the curb because we have built enough trust deposits with them over time. So the same is true for customers. So I'll give you a couple examples of this. The first example was when I was in a business relationship where I made a trust deposit. And this came about where I had a customer, it was actually my largest customer at the time, and we had won a new project with them. It was a substantial new project. We had done a lot of work with this company over several years. We were awarded this new project. We had a signed agreement. We had a purchase order. We were then invoiced this client. We billed them the initial billing for this project, and we began work in earnest on this project. Well, after about a month into this project, the boss of the main person that I interacted with at this company came to my customer and said that we are not doing this project with Matt's company, and we're going to go a different way. In fact, you need to go to Matt and get a refund of everything that we've paid him for this job so far. And if you don't, then you will be fired. So that's what was told to my customer. My customer calls me, explains the situation. And, by all rights, we were entitled to this money that we had received. We had a purchase order, an agreement. We were paid the money. We began working on this project. So I had to make a decision. Was I going to cause my customer to get fired over this, or was I going to give the refund? And I made the calculation that the best thing to do in this situation was to give a refund, and we would basically live to fight another day when it came to doing work for this client. But you can imagine the trust deposit that I made with that customer on that day. I saved his job based on my reaction. So we went on to do lots of great work with that client over many, many years. And the amount of money that we lost in the scheme of things was a small amount of money. But that was a day we made a big trust deposit. Another example is an example of a big trust withdrawal. So prior to starting my own company, I worked for a large advertising company, and we had taken on a very large project with a new customer, and the powers that be in my company really felt they understood how to price and quote this project. We got this job in, and we realized that we severely underquoted this job to the tune of about $100,000. So I was asked to go back to that customer and tell them that we misquoted this job, that we in fact needed to charge them a very substantial overcharge on this job for the work that we were doing. So it all worked out. We were able to get the extra money, but when you go to a customer and you don't follow through with what you said you were going to do, that's an example of missing their expectations. You fail, and you're taking a big trust withdrawal on that day. So I'm going to bring this back to the trust building story, this growth track process. So Olivia's trust building process, you put your ad, whatever it is that you're doing, you put your message in front of your service obtainable market. You expose them to your product or service. You explain your unique value proposition. They come up, they're engaged. They respond to this call to action that you have. They click. It's like they're coming to your landing page. From there, you go through this discovery process. You answer questions that they have, overcome objections that they have. You go through this trust building or discovery process. And from there, the customer is won. You earn their trust. They trust in you. They trust in your product. They trust in your brand. And then you continue that trust building process once they become a customer. You want to keep building relational equity. You want to keep the trust that you've worked so hard to build. You want to have them as a repeat customer. You want to upsell them. You want to cross-sell them. You want to get referrals and reviews. That's the trust building story. So this is the diagram that we use to explain the growth track. This is the process that we use at Cultivate to help you build trust with customers. So hopefully you'll see the more simple example that I gave with Olivia's story, how this is going to translate to your business. So I'm going to step through each of these sections. So the first thing, this all begins with how do you reach your service obtainable market? How do you put yourself in front of your audience? And there's really two main ways that we do this as a small business. The first is we reach our audience through our digital marketing. We're trying to get them to click on something, bring them to our website, whether it's an ad or a social media post or an email that we send out. So with our digital marketing, there's really two ways that we can draw our service obtainable market towards us. The first is we can do some things to pull them towards us. So this might be these are ways that we're attracting them to us. So we might be targeting certain keywords on our website. We might have different metadata in other ways that we structure content on our site to pull people towards us. The second thing we can do with our digital marketing is we can do paid ads or other kind of ads where we are modifying the descriptive copy and the key visuals in those ads, trying to push people towards our website, towards an engagement with us. The second way that we reach our service obtainable market as a small business owner is through the hustle. So if you're the CEO, if you're the business founder, this rests on your shoulders. You are the one leading this charge. So this is the hustle. So this is you sending out emails to prospective customers, making phone calls, going to networking events, all the things that you're trying to do to meet potential customers and drum up business. But regardless of how you're reaching your service obtainable market, whether it's through your direct sales and network building or through your digital marketing, ultimately these people are likely coming to your website because that's where they're going to better understand what it is that you offer and why buy from you. So maybe they're only going to your website just to validate all the things that you've told them at that networking event or through the email. You have to begin this trust building process with customers. So they come to your website, they click, they land on your website, and this is where you are communicating your unique value proposition. This is where you're communicating what it is that you offer and why customers should buy from you. And you're inviting them to take this call to action, to take this first step on beginning this path of engagement, to have a conversation with you and begin this trust building process with you. So a couple things that I'd like to point out here is the area of this diagram that I have slightly bolder in green. I want to point out that if you're working with a digital marketing vendor, you're working with a marketing company, somebody to help you to develop new business for your company, or maybe even you have an employee that's tasked with this. The area that I have highlighted with those bolder green rules, the brand execution, the digital marketing, that is the maximum scope of what a digital marketing vendor can do for you to help you in this whole process. And it's important to understand that. It's important to understand that their role is really confined to those two things. Those are the things that they can do to potentially help you to generate more traffic, more leads, through your website and through your digital marketing that you're running. But that's only one part of the entire trust building process that I have in here. It's not going to touch the part that you do through your hustle, and it's not going to touch the rest of this process that we have on this diagram. So if you don't understand that, then you're going to have a misconception. You're going to have a misexpectation of what this digital marketing vendor is going to be able to accomplish for you. It's also important that you are communicating with them what is happening with these leads that are coming in. Are they delivering quality leads? Are they delivering the right volume of leads? That whole cycle of feedback and information needs to go back to that digital marketing vendor if you're paying someone to do that for you. So they come to your website, they respond to your core message, your unique value proposition, they click on your call to action and they fill out a short form and they become a lead, or they pick up the phone and call your business. So this is where this trust building process really comes into high gear. This is where most of us have more of a personal selling process at this point. So this is where we're building a relationship with people. We're trying to answer their questions, resolve objections that they have, help them better understand our claims and how this product or service we have is going to solve their problem. This is where we're going to have to ask for a proposal. We're going to have to move them towards the sale. And there's a variety of ways we might do this. We might have them sign up for a free trial so they can test the waters. We might have them ask what we call a trial close to kind of see if they're ready to ink a deal. So we move them through this trust building process, or what you might call a discovery process, and hopefully we move them on to where they trust in you, they trust in the product or service that you're selling, they trust in your brand, and they buy the product or service. At that point, the customer is won, you've earned their trust. So one more thing that I'd like to point out in this diagram is the virtually no amount of digital marketing or lead generation can make up for a poor trust building process. And it's super important. So if we could be spending thousands of dollars a month generating tons of leads, but if what happens when they convert and we get that form in our inbox or they call us, if we don't have a great trust building process at that point, we're not going to be very effective at closing those leads and converting those people, building trust with them for them to become a customer. On the other hand, if we have a spectacular process of building trust with customers, we just have refined and tweaked this process to where we have a great flow in our sales funnel of how to move them through to become a customer, to earn their trust, then we don't need to have as many leads coming through our digital marketing because we're so effective at closing the leads that we have. So that's really important. So back to the diagram, once we have earned their business, we've won their trust, we want to continue this trust building process with our customers. We're continuing to create relational equity by exceeding their expectations. We're doing things to keep their trust, and we want them to be a repeat customer. We want to upsell, we want to cross-sell, we want to get referrals, and we want to get reviews. So as a small business owner, we have challenges as an entrepreneur with digital marketing providers. So I see this all the time where small businesses, they have very little money that they can afford to spend and allocate to their marketing, and they need to make sure it's used very wisely. But here's the thing that I want to point out. First of all, if you are working with a quality digital marketing vendor, it is almost certain that they would execute their scope of work at a much higher level than you will as a small business owner. When it comes to branding, they're going to have professionals that can help with the design, the copy, crafting great call to actions. You have branding people that you can pay that will do a much higher level at that than most of us can. Same is true when it comes to your SEO, your search engine optimization. They have experts that can research these targeted keywords. They can configure some of the technicals on the site, make sure that there's a proper structure to how you're optimizing for these keywords. They can do that at a much higher level than you can. Same is true for your paid ads. There are amazing features on Google, Facebook, all these online marketing tools that have filters, targeting. They're going to help you use key visuals and great copy for these ads. And then the fourth thing is your social media management. These people are experts in their field. But you have to realize the limitation of the trust building process that what a vendor can do for you. They can only do certain aspects of the digital marketing process for you. They cannot really take over the entire trust building process that you have with customers. So as we're looking at what a digital marketing provider can do for our small business, what we have to understand is that much of the trust building process that we have with a prospective customer, it happens outside of the scope of our digital marketing. There's only so much of this trust building process that happens online. A lot of it is going to happen through our personal selling, the way we communicate and correspond with our prospective customer. So what ends up happening oftentimes is when we work with a digital marketing vendor, for instance, to build a new website, many companies, because it's so expensive to have that vendor help them with the website, that they adopt what we would call a build and hold approach versus a launch and iterate approach. And what I mean by that is they'll spend, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, $10,000, $20,000 building a great website out, and that website is good and accurate as of the moment when they launch that site. But what really needs to happen is we to keep refining the messaging on that website, to keep adding unique quality substantive content on that site. So what we would advocate, instead of building that website and then being afraid to touch it for the next 2 or 3 years because it's so expensive every time you pick up the phone or shoot a email request to that vendor, we would recommend an approach where you launch a simpler, cleaner, but well-structured site, and then add to that as you go and iterate on that as you go. The second thing I like to point out is, in order to work with a digital marketing vendor, it's going to require a very close collaboration. So as you're getting leads from your website and you need to communicate back to that digital marketing vendor the effectiveness, the quality of those leads, you need to have a great loop of feedback. They need to understand, how these people are becoming customers, or where that process is breaking down, so you can, incorporate all that feedback into the entire process. Well, if you are trying to work with a digital marketing vendor where you're only spending $100, $200, $300 a month, you are just not going to be able to make enough investment to have enough of their time to really have that type of close collaboration with them. You're only buying a couple hours a month of their time. So you're really, in order to have that kind of collaboration with a vendor, you're going to have to spend, in the thousands of dollars a month typically to have that level of time to really closely collaborate for your business. So what ends up happening is you work with a vendor and you end up getting caught up on the things like the number of people coming to your site, things that don't necessarily translate into sales, when what you really need to focus on is the movement of people through your funnel. So again, making this key point that virtually no amount of lead generation can make up for a poor process of building trust with customers. So if you have a spectacular trust building process, you're not going to need as many leads. As opposed to if you have a poor trust building process, you're going to need to have a lot of leads because you're not going to be very effective at closing them.